Okay, welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah, this is where we really get into the source material you've shared with us.
Exactly. We dig through the articles, the research, your notes, all that stuff.
And try to pull out the absolute core insights, the things that really matter.
Right. The knowledge to help you cut through the noise, get informed, and do it, efficiently.
Think of us as guides, helping make sense of it all.
So today, we're diving into something pretty fundamental, I think, for understanding ourselves, but maybe especially for understanding kids.
Memory, how it works in the brain.
Exactly. We're pulling from Chapter 4 of The Whole Brain Child, which has that evocative title, Kill the Butterflies.
Mm-hmm. And the mission is really to get the science of memory and then see how knowing that can actually change how we handle tricky behaviors.
And even promote healing. Right.
Yeah, detailing.
The chapter starts with that scenario. Maybe you've experienced something like it.
Yeah.
Tina and Scott's son, 7 years old.
Oh, yeah, the swimming lessons.
Right. Loves swimming usually, excited to go with his friend, and then bam, suddenly refuses, just terrified.
Says he has butterflies.
And it seems completely out of the blue. Just baffling for the parents.
It is baffling. And we see that sometimes, don't we? These reactions from kids that just seem way too big.
Or just don't track with the situation at all. Makes no sense.
So why does that happen? Why these reactions that seem irrational?
Well, the source material argues that a lot of the time, the roots are actually in memory.
Hidden memories. Often, experiences influencing the present in ways the child isn't even aware of.
Okay, so let's get into that. The chapter starts by busting some common myths about memory. Because, what we think we know isn't always right.
Definitely not. Myth number 1 is the idea of memory as like a mental file cabinet.
Right. Like you want to remember breakfast yesterday, you just open the breakfast drawer, pull out the file.
If only. Yeah, the source says, nope, that's not it. It's not a neat little file stored away.
So what is it then?
It's about associations. The brain is basically this giant association machine.
Okay.
So when you experience something now, it doesn't just file it away, it instantly links it to similar stuff from your past.
So the past links influence the present.
Profoundly, how you perceive things, how you feel, how you react, it's all tied to those past associations.
Like finding an old pacifier isn't just seeing plastic.
Right. It triggers maybe warmth, maybe frustration, whatever feelings got linked to it back then. The present triggers the past web of connections.
And the science bit is that phrase.
Neurons that fire together, wire together. Classic Hebbian learning.
Explain that a little.
Well, every experience makes certain brain cells, neurons fire. When different neurons fire close together in time, especially repeatedly, the connection between them gets stronger. They get wired together.
And that physical wiring is the memory association.
Exactly. It's connection, not storage in a drawer.
Okay, like the lemon example. Thinking of biting a lemon makes you salivate.
Yep. The lemon thought neurons are wired to the salivation neurons because they fired together before. So one triggers the other automatically.
Or the bubblegum after ballet class example in the book.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it only happened once, but end of ballet fired, bubblegum fired, boom, wired.
So now after ballet, the brain might sort of expect gum implicitly.
Yeah, it uses those past links to prime itself to get ready for what might come next based on what came before. Memories aren't just passive records, they actively shape our present and future.
Okay, so memory is associative, built on connections, not filed. Got it. What's myth number 2?
Myth number 2 is the idea that memory is like a photocopy machine.
Meaning when you recall something, you get a perfect exact copy of the event.
Exactly, like hitting print. But the source says, Anna, memory is not an exact reproduction.
How so?
Because the very act of retrieving a memory actually changes it every single time.
Really? Changes it?
Yep. The memory trace itself gets altered. Your mood when it happened, your mood now when you recall it, it all influences the reconstruction.
Ah. So that explains why my sibling and I remember that family vacation completely differently.
Totally. You're both reconstructing it based on your own filters, emotions, current state. It's not a perfect photocopy. It's more like editing a document every time you open it.
Okay, so memory is reconstructive, not a perfect copy. It's a big shift in thinking.
It is. So take away from the myths. Memory is active. It's about associating and reconstructing. Dynamic, linked, always influenced by right now.
And understanding that leads us to the next really key idea, the difference between explicit and implicit memory.
Right. This is where it gets super relevant for those baffling kid behaviors. 2 main types. Explicit is the conscious kind.
Like, I remember my 5th birthday party, Or, I remember learning to ride my bike. You know you're pulling up a past event.
Exactly. You're consciously aware you're remembering.
Okay, what's implicit memory then?
Implicit is the unconscious stuff. It's where past experiences shape your current feelings, actions, perceptions. But you have no conscious awareness of recalling a specific memory.
Like riding a bike now. You don't think about the steps.
You just do it. Your body remembers. The past learning is guiding you implicitly under the surface.
So the brain learned lessons, and they're running in the background, shaping things, even if you can't consciously access the lesson learned moment.
Precisely. It's memory in action, guiding the present without needing conscious recall. And the book points out, this starts really early, like before birth.
Wow. The example of singing the song to the babies in the womb?
Yeah, that Russian folk song. After birth, that song made them way more alert than other songs. They'd formed an implicit memory of it.
Incredible. So they encoded implicitly before they were even born.
Mm-hmm. And for the first year and a half, roughly, babies encode only implicitly.
Only implicitly. So what are they encoding?
Perceptions, emotions, bodily sensations, basic movements, smells, sounds, how it feels to be held, tension in a caregiver's body. It's all getting wired in implicitly.
That sounds incredibly powerful, foundational.
It really is. It builds these deep expectations, these mental models, like the bubblegum after ballet, that becomes an implicit expectation. Or expecting comfort when a parent comes home. That's priming the brain getting ready based on past implicit patterns.
So implicit memory is useful then.
Yeah.
Helps us automate things, react quickly, good for survival.
Definitely. It helps us navigate the world efficiently. But, and this is the crucial part for those baffling reactions, if the implicit memory is tied to something negative, scary, painful, it can trigger intense fear, avoidance, big reactions in the present.
And the child has no idea why they feel that way.
None. They just feel the butterflies, the dread, the urge to run. The implicit memory gets triggered, flooding them with the feeling from the past, but without the conscious story attached. It's like the emotional echo without the explicit recall.
Like PTSD.
That's a powerful example, yes. A trigger activates the implicit emotional and sensory memory of trauma, even without a conscious narrative of the event itself in that moment.
Okay. So back to the swimming lessons. The butterflies might not be about this pool, this lesson.
Exactly. It could be driven by the implicit residue of that tough experience years ago. The strict teacher, the diving board fear, the dunking, stuff the child isn't consciously connecting to now.
Okay, and that is where the healing, the growth potential comes in, making the connection.
Yes. Which brings us back to Tina and her son. She didn't just dismiss the fear.
No, she had that gentle chat at bedtime, validated the butterflies, and then she said something amazing.
Your brain remembers things from the past, even when you're not thinking about them, introducing the idea of memory working behind the scenes.
Yeah, she helped him start linking the present, feeling the butterflies, to that past, difficult swimming class, talking about it.
Bringing the past experience into conscious awareness, that's the beginning of making the implicit memory explicit.
Integration, making the implicit explicit, connecting the unconscious feelings to a conscious story.
That's the core idea. And the brain part key to this.
The hippocampus.
Right. The book calls it like a search engine or a master puzzle assembler.
Okay, I like puzzle assembler.
Its job is to take all those scattered bits of implicit memory, the images, feelings, sensations, sounds, and pull them together.
Into a coherent picture, an explicit understanding of what happened.
Exactly. It builds the narrative. It connects the dots.
So if implicit memories are like loose puzzle pieces rattling around, the hippocampus finds the edges, fits them together, makes the whole picture make sense.
You got it. And the book stresses, when those painful implicit pieces stay scattered, unintegrated, they keep driving behavior and feelings from the shadows.
Leading to those baffling reactions, the distress, the confusion.
But when we actively work to integrate them, bring them into awareness, weave them into a story.
It gives insight, understanding why you feel or react a certain way.
Right. It moves you from being passively controlled by these hidden memories to having some agency, some control.
You get to make sense of it, write your own story about it, turn a hidden trigger into, well, into understanding.
And resilience, ultimately.
So powerful. Okay, how do we help kids do this? The chapter gives strategies, right? Storytelling is key.
Storytelling is huge. It naturally helps integrate different brain parts, including implicit and explicit memory.
Strategy number 6 is use the remote of the mind, replaying memories.
Such a great metaphor for kids, like an internal DVD player for tricky memories.
With pause, rewind, Fast-forward buttons they control.
Yeah. The example of David and his son Eli with the fear of woodworking tools.
Right. It turned out to be linked to that pocket knife accident months before, cutting his friend Ryan. But Eli wasn't consciously thinking about that when the fear hit.
It was an implicit fear trigger. So David introduced the remote idea. He started telling the story of the accident.
And when they got to the scary part, Eli yelled, "Pause."
Yep. Couldn't handle it yet. So David honored that, didn't push, suggested using fast forward.
Skipping ahead to the end, where Ryan was okay, everything worked out.
Exactly, giving Eli control. Then, over time, they could revisit it, use the remote, maybe pause, maybe rewind a bit, but always knowing the safe ending.
So Eli's brain, his hippocampus, could slowly integrate the fear, the sensations, into an actual story he understood.
At his own pace, that control is everything. It makes confronting the scary memory manageable.
And they eventually built the Pinewood Derby car, didn't they? Called it Fear Factor.
Perfect. Integration leading to agency right there.
Okay, strategy 7. Remember to remember. Making recollection a part of your family's daily life.
This one's about practice, building the habit of integration.
Like exercising the memory integration muscles.
Pretty much. The more kids tell and retell their stories about their day, about events, the better they get at making sense of things.
Brain training for meaning making.
You got it.
Yeah.
And there are lots of ways to do this, depending on age. Younger kids, simple, factual questions.
What happened at preschool today? What did you eat for snack?
Yeah. Older kids, you can go deeper. How did you sort out that issue with your friend? Tell me about the party. What was rehearsal like?
Journaling too, right? Writing or drawing it out.
Yes, the book emphasizes that. The physical act helps integration. Studies even show health benefits.
And fun ways too, if kids resist.
Oh, yeah. The 2 truths and a lie game about their day.
Oh, clever.
Or a family ritual, like sharing a high point, low point, an act of kindness from the day. Gets them reflecting on feelings and actions.
What about visual aids?
Definitely. Looking at photos, old videos, or making a memory book for something big like camp or a vacation. Prompts detailed recall.
So the payoff for all these remember to remember practices is
Kids get better and better at making sense of their past, which helps them understand and cope with their present much more effectively.
this is all fantastic for kids. But the chapter makes a really strong point that this isn't just for kids.
Oh, absolutely not. It's just as crucial, maybe even more, for us as parents.
Because we have our own implicit stuff running the show sometimes.
We absolutely do. Our own past influencing our reactions right now, often without us realizing it.
The author's personal story about his panic when his baby cried. That was really powerful.
Yeah, Dan Siegel's story. That inexplicable, overwhelming panic. He couldn't figure it out, tired, stressed, nothing fit the intensity.
Until the flashback.
Right. At the doctor's office, his son cries, and boom, he remembers his pediatric internship, holding down screaming babies while blood was drawn.
An incredibly difficult experience he hadn't processed. It stayed implicit.
Exactly. And his own baby's cry was triggering that old, unresolved, implicit memory decades later. He'd just pushed through the internship, never really dealt with the emotional toll.
It took that intense parental reaction and painful self-reflection to connect the dots, to integrate his memory.
And understand his own reaction.
So why is this parent integration piece so vital? What are the dangers if we don't do this work?
2 big ones, the book says. First, kids pick up on our stuff. Our unresolved distress, dread, frustration, feeling inadequate. It affects their calm, their security.
Even if we don't say anything, they feel it.
They feel it. And second, maybe even more directly, our unexamined implicit memories can trigger really unhelpful parenting responses, like overreacting, getting way too irritated. It comes from our old stuff feeling ignored, criticized, abandoned in our own past. We react to our child, but the reaction is fueled by our history, not just the present moment. So the book urges us, notice those strong reactions. When you feel really intense emotion and it feels kind of off, outsized for the situation.
Ask yourself, does this reaction actually make sense right now?
Right. Is this level of upset really about this?
Right.
And if the honest answer is, probably not.
That's the signal. Time to look deeper.
Exactly. Ask, what else is going on here? Is this reminding me of something? Where is this really coming from?
Bringing awareness to our own history, integrating our own implicit memories.
It gives us insight into why we react the way we do, how our past shapes our present parenting.
And that awareness, that gives us choice.
Absolutely. Choice. To respond intentionally from the present instead of reacting unconsciously from the past. Making sense of our own story helps us help our kids make sense of theirs. It's all connected.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive into Chapter 4,
Mm-hmm.
we've seen memory isn't a file cabinet or a photocopier.
Nope. It's dynamic, associative, reconstructive, neurons firing and wiring.
We unpacked implicit memory, that powerful hidden influence on feelings and behavior.
And how integration making implicit explicit with the hippocampus as the assembler is the key to understanding and healing.
We look at those great strategies.
Mm-hmm.
The remote of the mind for kids.
Giving them control over tough memories.
And remember, building daily habits of recall and storytelling.
Strengthening those integration pathways.
And crucially, how this all applies to us, the adults. Integrating our own past helps us parent more consciously.
Understanding our own triggers lets us choose our responses.
So yeah, I think we've covered the core concepts, the strategies, the neuroscience insights, the examples from this chapter on memory integration.
We've definitely hit the key points for bringing these ideas into practice.
So as you go about your day, here's a final thought to maybe chew on.
Uh-huh.
Consider how the stories you tell yourself about your own past, and maybe, just maybe, the stories you haven't fully told yourself yet, how might they be quietly shaping your present moments, especially those interactions with the children in your life?
Something to reflect on.
Definitely. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We hope this gives you a richer understanding of this whole brain approach.